The story opens with the protagonist posing a quiet question, whether there's someone in your life you can truly trust. As this thought lingers, he approaches a girl and thanks her for today. Hiraji-san smiles and says she's glad she could help. He reflects that if such a person exists in your life, they shouldn't be taken for granted. It doesn't have to be many, just one is enough. A friend, a family member, or even someone unexpected. As he walks beside her, he admits he'd been thinking about starting a conversation with a girl, something that never comes naturally to him. He feels the need to appear calm and composed in front of her, a pressure Hiraji understands. She nods in quiet agreement, and their conversation continues, his thoughts weaving in and out alongside it. He reveals his name, Tanaka Minato, a full-time high school student and part-time worker. For him, the person he trusts most is his senior coworker, Hiraji Rina. He turns to her often, someone who always listens, offers advice, and never judges. She's a constant presence, a friend he can rely on. And for that, he's genuinely grateful. People like her, he thinks, should never be taken for granted. She suddenly points out that the girl he's been talking about lately doesn't seem to be talkative or friendly. She asks if he doesn't find it unpleasant. However, Minato doesn't agree with her on this one. The person he's been talking to about Rina is a girl from his school. In response to her earlier remark, he argues that his classmate is a nice person, despite her appearing cold and unfriendly. Moreover, he respects her. Rina is surprised. She wasn't expecting to hear him praise that girl so much. Knowing that they are talking about someone she doesn't know, he apologizes. From time to time, Minato turns to Hiraji-san for advice. It has become a frequent occasion for him. They eventually reach the block where they'll be parting ways, but before she bids him goodbye for the day, he once again apologizes for bothering her on her way home. Thanks to her, he's realized his feelings for that girl. She informs him that he's free to ask for advice whenever he wants, and then proceeds to leave. He's convinced that Rina is the person he can trust. Meanwhile, Rina can't believe that her relationship with him turned out like this. He doesn't even realize who she truly is. She's the girl he's been talking about. A flashback takes us back to the days when Minato joined his current part-time job. We see Minato reading a book until his friend, Kazuki, notices him looking unusually serious. Kazuki tells him that he's going on a date with his girlfriend sometime later. Until then, he's willing to listen to whatever problems Minato has on his mind. Without beating about the bush, Minato lets him know that he's been living alone, leaving Kazuki perplexed. Minato straightforwardly explains that his dad got transferred overseas and his mother decided to go with him, so he's left alone. They provided him with a small allowance and encouraged him to start earning on his own. However, rather than spending the money on groceries or other essentials, he chose to buy books, lots of them. When his friend calls him out for making such a reckless decision, he explains that this month's series was just too tempting to resist. With that, he has run out of money, and now it has become a problem. Kazuki gives him a piece of advice, suggesting that he do a part-time job. Minato begins to worry since it's against school rules. But Kazuki quickly points out that lots of students secretly do it without getting caught. Even if the school finds out about his part-time job, Kazuki promises to somehow take care of it. Once things are decided, Kazuki gets him to dress up in semi-formal attire, one appropriate enough to secure him the job. He's amazed wearing something so impressive, though he still doesn't understand what the clothes have to do with covering his living expenses. Kazuki reveals that one of his friends found a great part-time job, and looking the way he does now, he's guaranteed to get hired immediately. Noticing his friend's lack of enthusiasm, Kazuki reminds him that if he takes the job seriously, he'll be able to buy more books. Unable to resist hearing books mentioned, he immediately lets him know that he's in. Some time later, he manages to land the part-time job, but despite his earlier enthusiasm, his confidence has started to fade again. Now officially employed as a waiter at a local tavern, he steps forward to introduce himself. Afterward, he's introduced to Hiraji Rina, his instructor for the day. As it's their first time meeting, Rina introduces herself as well. She then asks him to follow her, and he complies like an obedient child. The next day, Kazuki asks him about his part-time job, though he's particularly eager to hear about girls, if there are any. Minato tells him about Rina, adding that she was the only girl about his age there. He further adds that she was his instructor and taught him everything while having a calm and nice demeanor. However, he did not find her friendly. Regardless, he believes she's a good person. Kazuki then drops another question, asking him if the two of them got along. Minato responds that he can't say anything because he didn't even try. Agitated, Kazuki compares Hiraji Rina to their classmate Seitu Rina, insisting that the girl he mentioned couldn't possibly be as cold as the one in their class. They can't even talk to her. Rina is a girl who has few friends and acquaintances, but she's someone Minato knows. She's undisputedly the most beautiful girl in the whole school. In reality, she's well known at school precisely because of how cold and distant she is toward the boys. Nevertheless, he doesn't care about it because it has nothing to do with him. As they are talking, Kazuki's girlfriend Sayuri shows up to take him out on their date. He's annoyed thinking that Kazuki only uses him to kill some time. Seeing his friend leave, Minato decides to head home as well. On his way, he reflects on his interests and concludes that girls don't appeal to him, only books truly capture his heart. He wonders whether being more assertive in conversations would earn him more friends. Abruptly, his attention is drawn to a student ID from his school. Wondering who could have discarded something so important, he decides to open it, and discovers that it belongs to his infamously cold classmate, Seitu Rina. Minato wonders what to do with the student card. He initially thinks about giving it to Kazuki, who's going to pass it on to her, but hesitates when Kazuki's playboy personality surfaces in his mind. He then musters up the courage to give it to her by himself after school and quietly waits for her at the school entryway area. He thinks that the way he's approaching this will prevent any weird rumors from circulating since people won't stick around by then. Even though he mustered up the courage, he's losing patience and wants her to come out quickly so he can leave. Just as he is thinking about her, she arrives, giving the usual unapproachable aura, which only prompts Minato to admit that she lives up to the title of school's number one. When she's at a distance, he stretches his arm and calls her. Annoyed by his call, she shoots him a cold glare, but her mood takes a swing when she realizes that he's here to return her student ID. Since they look so different here compared to how they do at work, neither of them recognizes the other. He tells her that he found it lying on the ground, ends the conversation with that, and leaves. She's touched by his kindness, so much so that she even forgot to say thanks to him. Later at work, he complains about feeling sleepy, claiming it's because he was overly worried about Seitu Rina's ID. The lack of sleep gets the better of him as he abruptly bumps into a customer, nearly making them trip over the broken glass. The customer snaps at him and calls out the manager. But before things go south, Hiraji Rina steps in and apologizes on his behalf. She gently asks him to call the manager for her, and when the manager is summoned, he offers his deepest apologies. Later, as the sun sets and Rina and Minato finish their shift, he hurries over to express his gratitude to her. In response, she tells him not to mind it too much, since they are colleagues. She then turns and continues walking. Since he's been receiving help from her ever since he joined this part-time job, he's thinking of repaying her somehow. He calls out to her once again, urging her to turn around, and when she does, he tells her how he appreciates her help. He tells her that if there's anything he can do for her, she can feel free to tell him. Even though he's just said it, he doubts she's going to see him as someone reliable. To his surprise, she asks if she can seek his advice. It takes him a moment to process what he just heard, and then he asks her what's troubling her. She nervously asks him what kind of gift one can give to a boy. He assumes he's being asked for relationship advice. She quickly clarifies to avoid any misunderstanding, explaining that it's more like a return the favor gesture. She adds she's never given a gift to a boy before and was hoping he would tell her. When he asks her what kind of favor it was, she explains that a boy she had never met before ambushed her at school, seemingly waiting just to give her something. Since she always keeps her guard up, she forgot to say thank you, and before she knew, the boy was gone. This is exactly why she wants to offer him gratitude and an apology for not saying thank you on the spot, in the form of a gift. He suggests she should choose baked sweets. It's probably the safest choice, and she can offer it to him at school. Rina asks him if cookies would be okay, as they are delightful baked sweets. He adds that cookies can be kept for a long time, and they don't break easily. Even though she has received her piece of advice, she is now wondering if offering something to that boy would be a bother. He believes that if the boy is the kind of person who would wait for her just to give her something she dropped, then he's sure it won't bother him. Rina is pleased to hear that and hopes for that to be the case. The two of them say goodbye as they reach the spot where they part ways. While Rina Hiraji might seem clumsy sometimes, she has the sense of responsibility to come to someone's aid, and she's also kind and considerate. The next day after school, just as Minato is about to leave for home, Seitu Rina, waiting for him at the school entryway, suddenly calls out to him. She asks him if he's got some time. the scene shifts to Kazuki, who invites Minato to lunch and mentions hearing from a library committee member that a batch of new books is on the way. Thrilled, Minato plans to check them out later, though he's surprised by Kazuki's wide network of information. But Kazuki calls it a circle of friends. He encourages Minato to try making friends, but the man is satisfied receiving all his info from him. Arriving at the cafeteria, they notice a commotion. Saturina is sitting alone at a table, isolated from the rest of the students. The students are taking glances at her, admiring her from a distance. Discovering that Sato-san is at the center of attention, they think she's incredible for remaining unbothered. Seeing her appear the way she usually does, he concedes she gives a different vibe compared to that time. Fast forward to the evening, the time after school, she tells him that she wants to talk with him about her student ID, which he picked up the other day. Rina reaches out her arms, hands him the cookies, and says it's a small appreciation token. Awestruck, Minato accepts it, but then the entire room falls silent. He doesn't know what they should be talking about now. Normally, this should be over once he accepts it, but that doesn't seem to be the case. When he peeks a glance at her face, he realizes that she wants him to open this pack of cookies right here in front of her. Once he asks her for permission and she permits him, he starts munching on the cookies. After giving it a taste test, he admits these cookies are delicious, which makes her happy, and she even lets out a smile. However, her smile fades as she suddenly realizes what she's been doing. As he is about to leave, he tells her that he will eat the rest when he gets home. The next day in the school cafeteria, while Minato reflects on his encounter with Rina, Kazuki jump scares him. Noticing him being unusually distracted, Kazuki suspects that Sato-Rina might have something to do with it. He suddenly asks him if he likes Sato-san, taking him by surprise. Baffled, Minato straightforwardly denies it. He further tells him that he doesn't like anyone at the moment, though it would be different for him if the girl were more interesting than the books. Minato is sure he won't be crossing paths with his classmate Rina again, or so he thought until they meet once more at the school library, where she's the one to approach him. She asks him what he's reading. Initially awestruck, he shows her the book and explains that it's a suspense genre kind of book. She surprisingly reveals that she knows this book and starts explaining the contents without spoiling anything. As Rina continues to explain, she begins to expose that side of her that Minato has never seen before. He expresses how much he likes this. She agrees with him, admitting that she also likes it. He justifies his excitement by claiming that this is his first time meeting someone who likes it as well. As she returns this book to him, she tells him that there's another similar book to this one. If he's alright with it, she can recommend it to him. Minato appears to be very excited about that book, but she tells him that the book isn't available at the library. With no other choice, he decides to stop by the bookstore later and look for it. Rina nervously tells him that she has brought it with her, and she can lend it to him. He's stunned by this coincidence and happily borrows it from her. Inside, he can't believe that she lent him a book. When she finds him staring at the book, she wonders if he has already read it. But he tells her that's not the case, explaining that he was just thinking about how the school's top beauty is lending him a book. Gripping him by his shirt's cuffs, she tells him that she doesn't like being called that, something he never expected to hear. She further adds that she's not like that. Minato thought she wouldn't care about it. Though Minato thought she wouldn't care about it, he realizes that anyone would hate it when they don't have someone to talk to. While holding the book she lent him, he assures her he won't call her that again. The next evening at work, Rina notices Minato appearing sleepy during working hours and points it out. He doesn't answer but muses that he slept late last night as he was reading the book he borrowed from Saturina and finished it in just one night. After he finished the first volume, he received a sequel from her, and he just kept on borrowing. She was extremely chill, giving him books to read, instead of keeping them piling up at home. Even though she told him to be careful reading certain chapters, he went all out and ended up reading them all in one night. He then replies that something caught his eye. At present, Hiraji warns him not to neglect his sleep, because even if hobbies are important, he must take proper care of his body. Once he takes in what she just told him, he goes silent. Confused, she asks him why he's making that face, to which he responds that he's been told something similar recently. It was the other Rina who told him to take care of his body because he's still young. He admits that he was wrong for making her worry. The Rina besides him says that she shares the same opinion as that person, and since his classmate must be concerned about his health, he should listen to others' advice. Since he's getting nagged, he tries to change the topic quickly. He then asks her for a report on the return gift they talked about the other day. She thanks him for that time and reveals that she managed to thank her friend and offered him the cookies, which her friend ate happily. Rina then informs him that they continued to interact and they even found out that they share the same hobby. She is sure that getting too much immersed in a hobby, like Minato does, is entirely that person's fault. Minato finds this fairly unexpected. She was cautious at first, but then she became friends with him. She admits she had never been good at dealing with boys and has always evaded them. She describes her classmate as someone very passionate about his hobbies. His directness and honesty make it easier for her to approach him. He's glad Rina made a good friend. Since she never considered her classmate a friend, she lets out a genuine smile now when she thinks about it. Meanwhile, Minato tries to imagine just what kind of person Rina's classmate must be to have gained her trust and made her smile that way. The following day at the school library, Rina reaches for a book, but can't grab it because it's placed at a height. Seeing her struggling, Minato gets it for her, but since she's too baffled to respond, he assumes she doesn't want it and tries to put it back. She nervously asks him not to put it back, but to hand it to her instead. Afterwards, both start reading, but for some reason, Rina still seems to be flustered about him helping her earlier. He tells her that it's fine to ask people for help, but she insists she could have done it herself, even though he witnessed her struggling. He returns the book that he borrowed from her 2 days ago, and she's taken aback by the fact that he read through it so quickly. Concerned about his health, she asks him what time he sleeps at, and surprisingly discovers that he's recently been sleeping at 2 a.m. when he normally sleeps by 1 a.m. With a serious face, she tells him to stop reading so late at night and get some proper sleep. Clocking that she's about to get more intense with this scolding, he gives her a half-hearted response and attempts to change the topic by asking her what she likes about the books. Since they both have similar preferences when it comes to books, he thought he would ask for her opinion. She responds with a smile, telling him that she owns books of various genres from all over the world. She experiences those stories just by reading, and she likes it more when it's only text, so she can visualize the story in her head. She claims that there are not many things that let her experience something as beautiful. Curious about Minato's views on the books, she asks him what he thinks. He says he enjoys how books bridge the past with the present. He explains with an example. Though he can't meet people from the past, he can understand them through books, relating their lives, thoughts, and emotions. To him, there's nothing more beautiful. Since Rina never had the chance to talk to anyone else about this, she's glad to hear his thoughts. He adds that it's a new experience for him, and he wishes moments like this happened more often. Seeing her absorbed in her notebook, Minato asks what she's reading. After all, he doesn't recall any upcoming tests. She informs him that she's completing the math exercises because there's going to be a class tomorrow. Just as she finishes, he points his finger at a problem she's got wrong. She's quite surprised to discover that he's good at things other than books as well. Minato is slightly offended by this comment. He clarifies that he studies properly and reads only during his free time. She accepts defeat, admitting that she can't mess with him anymore. Minato plays the Ona reverse card and points out that he's seen her walking home while being engrossed in a book, which is dangerous. He warns her to be cautious because she might get caught by someone else, which may hurt her reputation. Her response comes out both stubborn and a little flustered. Later, as he heads home, he's surprised to find Rina walking right in front of him, especially since she had left before him. Even though they are walking in the same direction, she doesn't seem to be aware. Moreover, she's still reading, even after he warned her not to. Out of nowhere, Minato sees a truck rushing towards her. He quickly jumps forward and pins her against the side wall, recreating the iconic wall pin move. Turns out it was her mistake. She was reading while walking. Since they are in an awkward position, Minato pressing her against the wall, she asks him to excuse her. Realizing his mistake, he steps back and warns her to be careful when walking. Even though he knows that she's a popular figure in their school, he hopes to make an effort to be more aware of her feelings and keep his distance. Thinking back to how close they were just a moment ago, she can't help but blush. Walking together side by side, they come across an ice cream vendor. When Rina suddenly stops and stares down at the ice cream shop strangely, he asks her if there's something strange. He then finds out that she just wants to eat the ice cream because she's hungry. He buys her ice cream, which she enjoys thoroughly, though moments earlier she had struggled to choose a flavor. Seeing him gasping in realization, she asks him if he's doing okay. He remarks he's surprised to see her enjoying her ice cream. Expectedly, she responds harshly to him. But he claims he's used to her cold attitude by now, and her personality is perfect the way it is now. He gently tells her that he's aware she's a good person inside. Considering everything she's done for him, he's sure she can make friends with whoever she wants and have ice cream with them. However, she's not sure if that's true. He reassures her that even if she can't make new friends, he will still be by her side as a friend. She responds to him with a bright smile, telling him that if that ever happens, she will take him up on his offer. At first, Rina considered him strange, but she has now come to see him as a kind person. As she got closer to him, she began lowering her guard, and after she discovered that he likes reading books, they started to spend more time in the library talking about books and entering a book-lender and lendee relationship. He had no ulterior motives and was happy to spend time with her, though he sometimes made some bold moves, but being aware he kept his distance after. She thinks it's not fair for him to say such things. His words shocked her deeply. But still, he will remain the one to be there for her. Snapping her out of her thoughts, he tells her to eat her ice cream before it melts. Noticing her treasuring this moment, he realizes that it was a good decision to bring her here. The scene transitions to the library. Our lad returns the book he had borrowed from Rina, and admits that he feels bad for always borrowing from her. She asks him not to mind it, because she's doing it of her own volition. When she notices his skin looking smoother, her curiosity piques. He explains that he took her advice and slept well. She's gotten closer to him since the day they ate ice cream together. He suddenly asks her if it's all right for her to keep on meeting with him. She has always avoided interacting with guys. That's exactly why he's asking. She admits that she has always tried to avoid involving herself with boys, but he's just an exception. He likes the book she lends him. Meeting a fellow book enthusiast for the first time and exchanging thoughts with him is a delightful experience for her. He admits that the thought of her being cautious of him and not lending him books is scary. She agrees, further adding that it is exactly what she was talking about, and she wants to keep things the way they are now. At work, Minato begins spacing out again, and like always, Rina is the one to snap him back to reality, though in his view, this is his colleague Rina. She thinks that maybe there's something on his mind. Later, as they are leaving, she asks him what he wanted to talk about. Out of nowhere, he asks her if she has a best friend. Knowing it could be misleading, he hopes she won't misunderstand, but she does. Weirded out by his delivery, she doesn't respond to his question. He then shifts the conversation to himself, mentioning that he is getting along well with a friend at school. Since he's been receiving help from that girl, he wants to return those favors. Despite that, she doesn't know why he's asking her. Explaining this to her, he says that she and his classmate are similar to each other. He thought asking her for help might get him some kind of information. She then responds to his earlier question, revealing that she has a few friends, but none of them are worthy enough to be called her best friend. She then reminds him about the person she mentioned the other day, adding that there's a chance this person might become her best friend. That person is accepting her for who she is, and she feels relaxed when she's talking to him. She advises him not to leave his friend's side, as it would make the other person happiest. Moreover, she tells him that his thoughts would reach her. He decides to put more effort from now on, so that she will call him her best friend. Seeing how much he thinks about and worries for that girl, she is sure that they might already be friends. At school, the students prepare for the self-study in the library because they heard that students from other classes are going to be included. Seeing his classmates fawning over Rina, he asks Kazuki if he's interested as well. But in the next minute, he tells Kazuki that Rina probably dislikes people of his type. Kazuki says he was already aware of that fact, that's why he never approached her. Furthermore, he eyes different girls, as there are plenty of fish in the sea, though there's not a single girl that he likes seriously. When asked if he had ever liked a girl genuinely, Kazuki reveals he once liked a girl when they were still in middle school, but it didn't go well. Minato can't argue with him because it's Kazuki's decision, though the thing he can do is give him some advice to keep his frivolousness in moderation. Sometime later, when the duo arrives at the library, they find the place crowded with people. Just as he starts searching for Rina, he spots her working quietly with a lifeless face. When their eyes suddenly meet, she smiles at him, making the students around Minato believe the smile was directed at them. Even if she flashed him a smile, he noticed that she looked kind of off. After the other students have left, she walks up to him and gives him the sequel to the book he's reading. Since Rina is just a few meters away, he's now able to tell that she's feeling unwell. She's surprised to learn that he knows about her condition. Right when he urges her not to push herself, she loses her balance and ends up against him. Now convinced that she's not right, he grabs her bag and leads her towards the infirmary, just because he can't leave a sick person like her by herself. Waking up, Rina recalls that she went home early yesterday because she wasn't feeling well, but fortunately, her fever seems to have gone down. She recalls how she nearly collapsed in the library, and Minato helped her. She blushes remembering how he had to prop her up and bring her to the nurse, and it's the second time she received his help. She had been feeling a bit unwell all day, but is certain that no one from her class noticed, except Minato. The next day at school, when classes end, Rina wonders what she should do. She wants to thank him, but can't think of anything. Arriving at the entrance of the library, she thinks it would be right to thank him first, and with that, she goes inside. However, when she looks around, she realizes he's nowhere to be found in the library. Holding on to hope, she decides to wait for him, but even after watching the clock for over 90 minutes, he still doesn't show up. Despite that, she forcefully tries to convince herself that he must have plans. Suddenly, something in her snaps, and she begins making gloomy remarks. In this moment, she wishes she had his contact information. The next day, Rina gets to hear his voice asking if she's okay. Excited, she turns her face behind, toward him, and thanks him for helping her. He tells her not to worry about it, and then asks her if she's okay now. Sometime later, she tells him how she waited for him the previous day to thank him, but he never came. He reveals he caught a cold himself and stayed home, and he's sorry for not being able to meet her. Thinking he got sick because of her, she apologizes to him. He replies that it's unrelated and explains that this happened 2 days ago. He came out of the bath and got immersed in a book that he even forgot to dry his hair. He caught a cold because of his own carelessness, and she's not to be blamed here. She tells him she's relieved to know it wasn't her fault. When he asks her if she was actually worried about him, she simply responds with a no and looks away to hide her embarrassment. She then adds that it was out of curiosity, though he knows that's not entirely the case. Later at work, every time Rina walks past him, a wave of nostalgia washes over him. Once the restaurant is closed and the cleanup begins, he notices her quivering while trying to pick something up, and the gesture she makes brings back the memory of Rina reaching out for her books. He helps her get it, and then asks her if something is bothering her. After some hesitation, she explains her concerns and reveals that the guy she spoke of came to her aid again, making her feel she owes him a great deal. Hearing her talk about that, he feels he also owes Seitu a lot. Continuing, she adds that after she apologized, he comforted her, leaving her uncertain about how to make it up to him. He gives her a piece of advice, telling her to wait for the perfect moment and return the favor to him when he needs something the next time. Since they are spending time together, a moment where he needs her help is bound to come, and she supposes that it's true. When she sees him at school the following day, she asks him if his cold has gone away. After he tells her that he's recovered, she hands him the next book in the series he's been reading. Noticing how thick this book is, he takes it as proof that the story will be interesting. Seeing him all excited, she gets him to promise that he won't sacrifice his sleep to read it. Soon after, she notices him spacing out, looking aimlessly at the book she has just lent him. She asks him if something is wrong. He replies by saying he was contemplating everything he had gone through in a brief span, and thinks that it's a shame he's reading all these books so quickly. She interprets it as if he's asking for additional books. He tells her not to take it as him complaining, and adds that he's grateful for what he has. Despite that, she still asks whether he would like more books, and he hesitantly says yes. She catches him off guard when she asks him if he wants to walk home with her. Before he gets the chance to question her, she tells him that if he comes by her house, she can lend him a few more books. He says he doesn't know if it's the right thing to do, which surprises her since coming along with her would only give him more books. Inside, he considers it a very tempting offer, but doesn't know if it's a good idea to go. He fears the outcome of being seen with her, but she tells him that he doesn't have to walk next to her, he can quietly follow her from a distance. Now that Rina has convinced him, she suggests that they should be on their way. He's fine following her, but doesn't want to be called a stalker afterward. She tells him not to act like one if he doesn't want to be called that. Before they head out, she shyly requests his contact information. Seeing it as a solid idea, he agrees, and they exchange details. When she sees his name pop up on her phone as Tanaka Minato, she's completely thrown off. Hearing her emphasis on his name, he suddenly realizes they never properly introduced themselves. So he rectifies the situation and introduces himself formally. Once he's done, she wonders if he knows her name, and he confirms by calling her by name. When they finish introducing themselves, she says they should head over to her house. Hearing those words from her got him all nervous. Now walking behind her, keeping his distance like she told him to keep, he sees the astonished gazes directed her way. He never expected to see himself in a situation like this. Allowing him to come over to her house just to borrow a book seems like an unusual turn of events. He reassures himself that it's nothing unusual, it's just a girl's house, and reminds himself that he won't actually be going inside. She suddenly turns her face behind and flashes him a smile, which makes his heart beat. When they reach her apartment, she tells him to wait outside for a minute while she goes in to get some books. Judging by how beautiful this complex looks, he presumes she's more of a princess than he thought. She hands him 2 books and asks if they are enough. Right after he thanks her, she brings her face close to his and reminds him that she gave him the 2 books because he wanted to read, but she wants him to promise that he will sleep well. Seeing him with a smile while carrying her books, she mentions how cheerful he seems. He turns red when caught in his dilemma. With a smile of her own, she mentions how pleased she is to see his joy. When she compliments his smile, he sheepishly makes a hasty exit. Despite knowing she meant it innocently, he can't help but blush. Later that night, as she lies in bed before falling asleep, she opens his contact info and keeps staring at it. She finds it hard to believe that 2 people around her could share the same name and concludes it must be him. Even though she's not certain yet, she finds both of them looking similar. Since she works a part-time job, she thinks it's possible, and if they really are the same person, then she's already said some embarrassing things in front of him. Rina becomes flustered as she recalls the many moments she spent with him being her true self. To calm herself down, she decides to take a bath. Just when she comes out of the bath, she hears a beeping sound coming from her phone. Thinking it's a message from Minato, she immediately checks her phone. However, she discovers that it's one of her friends, Sora, asking for help with her school homework. Even though she isn't expecting an introduction message, since they had already introduced themselves before she lent him the books, she still hopes for a message, simply because they just exchanged contact information. With no other option, she decides she has to be the one to message him. That way, things won't turn awkward. The problem, however, is that she has no idea what to send or how to even start a conversation with him. Once she writes a message she's okay with sending, she sends it and feels relieved afterward. Later, while doing her homework, she keeps getting distracted by the thought of getting a response from him. Rina is unable to focus on things, which is not normal for her, as she's a very devoted person. Just as she tries to focus on her homework, she gets a message from Minato saying he can't wait to share his thoughts on the book. Excited, she rolls around on her bed, emitting genuine happiness. Staring at her screen, she realizes that she has never felt this happy getting a reply before. Minato's short and straightforward way of phrasing things convinces her that the 2 boys she spends most of her time with are actually the same person. It was just a few days ago that Minato first visited Seidu Rina's house, but now he frequently comes by to borrow more books. However, he still isn't used to waiting outside a girl's house. Abruptly, Rina slams her door open and asks him for help. Sometime later at work, Hiraji Rina notices Minato looking distracted and asks if something is bothering him. He replies that it's not a big deal, but there's something he can't get out of his head. She casually asks him what that something is. When he reveals that he finally got the chance to enter the house of the girl he usually talks about, Rina is surprised and leans in close to his face. She quickly pulls back once she realizes she's gotten too close to him. He tells her that it was 2 days ago. He went there because he had something to do, and when he got to the entrance, the girl apparently asked for his help because there was a spider in the living room. Minato did her a favor by getting rid of the spider, since she struggles with bugs and spiders. He realized that he was inside the house of the most beautiful girl in his class. After picking up what he came for, he headed toward the exit. She invited him to stay for at least a cup of gratitude, but he still left, saying he had to read. His story convinces her that he really is the same person, her classmate and coworker. Minato adds that it was a girl's house, and to top it all off it was her house, which got him nervous, and he still can't get that thought out of his head. She's surprised to discover that he got nervous that day. He further explains that normally it's just the 2 of them, so he doesn't think about it, but being in her house with her looking so cute made it hard for him not to feel self-conscious. She keeps getting redder the more Minato talks about her. Minato tells her that his classmate is known as the most beautiful girl in his school, and he has always thought she was cute. But since she tends to avoid talking to boys, he never had the chance to say it to her directly. She nervously tells him that if that's all he wants to say to her, then he should go ahead and say it. To her surprise, he refuses to do it, simply explains that their relationship is one where they don't see each other as the opposite sex, and he doesn't want to ruin that. He prefers that they don't pay too much attention to each other. At school, Kazuki spots Minato texting someone and teases him by asking if he's got a girlfriend. He adds that Minato has been glued to his phone lately, but Arla argues it's just work-related messages. Minato praises his observation skill, and Kazuki replies that such a skill is vital when it comes to talking to girls. Earlier, Kazuki spotted a girl with new contact lenses and praised her for it, and upon hearing this story, Minato wonders how Kazuki can be so perceptive. Kazuki tells him that if he wants to make a girl fall for him, he needs to pay attention to changes in and around her. After giving him this piece of advice, he asks Minato if he wants to make someone fall in love with him, but the latter replies that's not the case. When it's time to go home, the rain begins to fall heavily, but Minato feels lucky for having brought an umbrella. Just as he's about to leave, he notices Rina leaning on the entrance door without an umbrella. He turns to her and asks if she has forgotten her umbrella, to which she responds with a yes. He asks her if she would be comfortable sharing the umbrella with him, but she declines his offer, telling him that there's no need. Despite her refusal, he urges her to walk with him, since he would feel bad if she were avoiding it for his sake. Unable to turn down his offer, she decides to share the umbrella with him. Since they had to squeeze under the umbrella, his shoulder was left exposed to the rain and got wet. As soon as they arrive at Rina's house, she quickly runs inside to grab a towel for him. When she comes back with the towel, lightning and thunder crash together, scaring Rina. He checks in with her to make sure she's all good, even though her face screams otherwise, but she's adamant she's fine. He suggests waiting at the entrance until the rain calms down, promising to stay until the thunder and lightning decide to take a break. Moreover, if he leaves now, the books she lent him will also get wet. She lets him know that she doesn't see it as a problem, so he can stay with her for a bit. Since he's a friend, she can't just leave him waiting there, so she invites him into the living room. A little later, while his wet coat is drying, she serves him tea, which he drinks in awkward silence. Noticing the rumbling thunder, he asks her if she's not good with lightning. She replies that nothing good ever came from lightning, at least not that she can remember. Rina then asks if there's anything he doesn't fancy. He responds that he hates the rainy season because his books get wet, which he dislikes. Additionally, he also hates mold and doing laundry. Hearing this, she starts laughing, telling him that he's something because of his quirkiness. He smiles seeing her doing better. Minato asks her if he can check out the books she intends to lend him. Right as he's checking out these books, he notices that the lightning has stopped. Since it's a good time to go, he decides to take his leave, and before bidding her goodbye, he tells her that he's thankful to her for lending him a towel and offering him a cup of fantastic tea. In response, she says she should be the one thanking him. Puzzled, he asks if he's done anything, to which she replies that he's just different. With that, he bids her farewell and leaves. Being alone with the girl made him a bit nervous, while Rina, leaning against the doorway, felt herself blush. Looking for something interesting in a local bookstore, Minato comes across a book that Rina was talking about. It's titled Defendant's A Confession. We move back in time a few days, specifically November 13th. Minato and Ren are absorbed in their reading, when suddenly he notices the calendar and realizes that Rina's birthday is soon to come. The reason he remembers her birth date is that it's exactly 2 months after her birthday. He asks her if she has something she wants. She calls his question sudden and asks why he is bringing it up. He tells her that there's no reason behind it, he just felt like asking. She replies that no matter what he says, it's still sudden, and she can't come up with an answer. Just as she finishes, she remembers that there's a new book she's interested in, and it's called Defendant's A Confession. Upon hearing that it's a book she wants, he gives her a weird look. She calls him out for his reaction, calling it mean. He apologizes on the spot, but then inwardly thinks that asking for a book in this situation is such a Rina thing. Back to the present, he's wondering if giving her a present is really okay. Just as he's about to make a decision, Seidu Rina appears and greets him. This is Rina's first time seeing her in day-to-day clothing. He tells her that he was looking around for some books and then asks her what she's doing here. Rina says that she finished doing everything she needed to and found him here by chance. Noticing her carrying a heavy bag, he offered help by holding it for her. Since he's looking for books, she doesn't want to be a burden. But she gives in to his stubbornness, seeing how insistent he is. As he walks beside her, Minato realizes it's the first time they've ever walked side by side. Seeing her blushing and fidgeting, he notes that she doesn't look comfortable. Walking together, they come across the same ice cream shop they had visited before. With excitement, she tells him about a time-limited ice cream flavor, suggesting that they go in and try it. Sometime later, he's sitting at a table while she's ordering. Watching her from a distance, he notices her panicking even over something as simple as ordering ice cream, which brings a smile to his face. As she returns to the table with the ice cream, Minato still catches a glimpse of her clumsy nature. It turned out she was panicking because the variety of toppings overwhelmed her, making it hard to pick one. Rina then quietly enjoys her ice cream and gives off a positive energy as she takes every bite. Looking at her bag, Minato points out that she bought a lot. She reveals she's bought various things, most of which are cooking ingredients and daily use items. Thinking about that, he recalls not seeing a single trace of other people in Rina's house when he visited her. He assumes she lives alone, but chooses not to bring it up. Minato steers the conversation toward books, casually asking if she has bought any new ones. She excitedly reveals that she has bought a book from the series she's lending him right now. The book even contains a small note from the writer. He's intrigued by this information and asks her if he can borrow it after she's finished reading it. She gives him a positive response to his request. They both catch sight of their melting ice cream and simultaneously speak up, unknowingly calling each other by name for the first time. Both get all red when they realize what they just did. At school, Minato asks Kazuki what a girl the same age as them likes. Kazuki replies that when unsure of their preferences, sweets are always the safest choice. But if it's someone important, he can go with beauty, cosmetics, or even brand items. Immediately after suggesting a gift, Kazuki asks him which girl he is talking about. However, Minato replies that he has the right to stay silent, which Kazuki complains is unfair. Even though Minato doesn't want to reveal anything, Kazuki still gives him one last piece of advice, saying that it's fine to simply ask with girls what they like. Later that day, Rina tells him that she thinks a book would be a good gift for his friend, though she also adds that if it's making him overthink, why doesn't he just not give her anything? He immediately responds, adding that he wants to give her something, but he feels like giving her a book isn't enough. He wants to show her how grateful he is through this gift. Even if she doesn't need to, she treats him well, and when he's in a predicament, she worries about him. That's exactly why he wants to show her how thankful he is. He wants to see her happy, and he loves seeing her smile. The more he compliments her, the more flustered she appears to become. Blushing deeply, Rina tells him that she believes his friend would like flowers or something like an accessory. She adds that whatever he chooses for her, she would be happy with it. Her suggestion makes him realize that he could give her 2 gifts. When they reach the block where they part ways, he thanks her for the suggestion and bids her goodbye. Recalling him saying how much he loves seeing her smile, she can't help but blush. Standing by the shoe rack, Minato realizes Rina is late, despite her texting him that she would come. While waiting for her, he notices a crowd forming in the distance. Joining the crowd out of curiosity to see what's happening, he finds Rina being confessed to by a boy, the captain of the soccer club. The boy tells Rina that he can't get her out of his head, even though he's been rejected a lot of times. He then apologizes for skipping all the steps and now wants to be friends with her. Even so, she turns him down. Once this settles, she decides to take her leave and even quietly passes by him. Looking through various accessories in a nearby store, he finds himself unsure about purchasing a neck chain. Not long ago, Kazuki asked if he had decided on choosing accessories as a gift. Minato tells him that his senior female coworker also recommended that as well. He adds he's going to look around the mall this weekend for a gift. Kazuki gives his approval but advises him to think carefully about the accessories, since they can go both ways, her taste and the way he's going to present it to her. Minato is exasperated because his friend is pointing this out now. At present, he doesn't know what he should give her as a second gift. Since the moment he saw her rejecting the soccer club captain, he's felt that she's been avoiding him. Minato finds it complicated to figure out how to thank her. He's already bought the book she wanted, and now he's struggling to think of another gift. Despite that, he's ready to give it his all, but the more he looks around, the more he gets lost. Just as he's about to give up, he hears a vendor nearby advertising their miscellaneous goods and accessories. Since he's got nothing to lose, he decides to check it out and surprisingly comes across something that she would like. As usual, his after-school routine involves borrowing a book from Satina, and lately he's noticed her acting a little distant. He feels like this is the moment to confirm it. When she returns with the books, he bluntly asks her if she's upset with him. Taken aback nervously, she replies that it's not the case. He asks if she's bothered by what happened the other day when someone confessed to her. Turns out she didn't know he was there, even though their eyes met at the entrance. She's surprised by this discovery and apologizes because there were so many people and she didn't wait for him. Rina then clarifies that it wasn't his fault, Lately, she's not making sense and things are getting weird. However, no matter what happens, she says she wouldn't avoid him or get angry with him. She further adds that she sees him as a very important friend. While smiling, he says that if she phrases it like that, then he wouldn't have anything to worry about. Minato then pulls out her birthday present and hands it to her. She's surprised that he knows her birthday and guesses that maybe he remembered it from her student ID. He confirms that's indeed the case, and when she asks if she can open it, he tells her she may. When she finds the book she was interested in the other day, her face lights up with a smile and pure delight. Seeing her being grateful, he's also glad that she liked it. He then proceeds to hand her the second gift he bought for her. She opens it to find a visually stunning bookmark inside. He explains that he sought advice from many people and initially intended to buy an accessory. But upon discovering this bookmark, he felt she might prefer it instead. He tells her to be careful while holding it since it's made of reinforced glass. Bringing the bookmark close to herself, she remarks she's going to treasure it. He explains he first thought she would refuse it, but is now glad she accepted it. She responds that she would never reject a gift from a precious friend. Hearing her say the word precious sends butterflies in his stomach, even though he knows she didn't mean it that way. Now that he has given Rina her gifts, he decides to leave. As he is leaving, he expresses how happy he is that he got to talk to her after a long time. Rina can't seem to let go of the precious bookmark Minato gave her. The reason she's holding it close to her is because she's sure he must have put a lot of thought into it. Since he even asked other people for advice, she wonders if he thinks a lot about her. Rina's truly happy on this special day. Although she received many gifts, the one he gave her feels the most special. As she's wondering why, she realizes that when she looks him in his eyes, she's feeling nervous lately, and she always wants to end up looking at him. Rina doesn't remember when she started feeling this way, but before she knew it, he became someone precious to her. She thinks of him as someone kind and sincere, and when she calls him a friend, her heart sinks. Rina already knew what this feeling was. She had just been pretending not to care. But now she acknowledges that she loves Tanaka-kun. Opening the door to the school library, Minato is taken aback by how beautiful Rina looks, especially with her hair down. After greeting each other, Rina gives him a sequel to a book, like she always does. Imagining her holding the bookmark close to her chest, he once again spaces out. Spotting the bookmark he gifted her on the table, he realizes that she's using it. In response, she says that she's using it because she wants to. He appears to be happy because she likes his present. He informs her that he can't thank her enough for what she has done for him. Even when she tells him that he doesn't need to worry about such things, he replies that he needs to thank her. Moreover, he adds that she can use it to her heart's content. She considers his suggestion and remarks that she will use it with care. Later, while both of them are engrossed in their books, Rina wonders if she had behaved normally there. Now that she's conscious about her feelings for him, even his outdated glasses are looking good to her. That's not all, she's looking at him with awe, grasping every reaction and emotion he's showing. Nevertheless, she is aware that she's been acting weird ever since she became conscious of her feelings. She hides her feelings, fearing that if he notices, she might lose him, just as she has lost other precious things before. He's someone who sees her for who she is and shares the same interests as her. Moreover, in dire situations, he's someone she can count on. Despite not envisioning being under the spotlight, he proudly calls her his friend. Rina's biggest fear is losing him, which she suspects could happen if she demands something beyond the friendship. At the moment, she's content with how things are between them, and she isn't prepared to lose him. Enjoying lunch and chilling at the school rooftop, Minato thanks Kazuki for the advice on the gift. Kazuki is weirded out when he learns that his dear friend gave that girl a bookmark. He tells Minato that his friend has a peculiar taste for accepting a bookmark. Minato says he's the biggest weirdo, which he finds a bit harsh. Kazuki assures him that if anything happens, he's here for him. After this, he asks Minato if his coworker knows about the situation. Minato reveals they haven't covered the same shifts yet, but he will tell her the next time they meet. Kazuki asks Minato for his senior's name, and upon hearing she's called Hiraji, Minato teases him by asking if he's after his senior. Just as they are speaking, Minato notices a bunch of girls gossiping about Rina, who believes she's acting neat just to attract boys. Since he can't do anything, he sits quietly with a grim expression, which Kazuki notices and points out. The former explains he felt sick hearing the gossip, but Kazuki assures him that it's normal for someone that good-looking. Minato adds that even so, he can't help but feel creeped out. Kazuki is rather surprised to see his friend being affected by rumors, Minato internally acknowledges that this isn't the first time he's heard rumors about Sato, but for him to react in such a way indicates he acknowledges her as a friend. Kazuki then teases him by asking if his way of thinking has changed recently. Nevertheless, he thinks of Rina as a good person, which is why it doesn't matter to him what people say. He's long decided to stay by her side. Returning the book to Rina, he chats with her about how complex a certain part of it was. After he's finished talking about the book, he admits that it got him to talk a lot. She mentions that she also had fun talking to him, and then playfully teases him by calling him a bookworm, a comment he accepts without taking offense. In response, he jokes that it would be more accurate to say the books are his lovers. Finding his comment funny, she gently giggles and labels his level of book obsession creepy. Recalling the gossip the girls had about Rina, he's overcome with conflicting emotions. Catching him with an agitated face, she asks if something is wrong, but he assures her that he's fine. Shortly after, she lets him know that she's leaving. Later that day at work, he is excited about meeting with Rina, because the two of them are scheduled for the same shift. All he can think about is thanking her when he meets her. Noticing she's late, he changes into his uniform and waits. Just as he's about to head to the dressing room, the owner calls him over and tells him his daughter will be joining the hall staff. The owner then calls her in and urges her to introduce herself. The girl steps forward and introduces herself as Nanase Mai.
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand, I know I walked away.